think that the black Americans have been the only real diehard Americans here, because we're the only ones who've carried the process through the process. That everyone else has to sort of like skip stages. We're the ones who marched, we're the ones who carried the Bible, we're the ones who carried the flag, we're the ones who tried to go through the courts. And being born American didn't seem to matter. Because we were born Americans, but we still had to fight for what we were looking for. And we still had to go through those channels and those processes.
I don't really care what you have to say. Facts over fiction is the motto replay. Muhammad Ali came up from the clay. Grassroots built up this USA. Now knowing your history, you'll get played. Equip yourself cause you came to slay any opponent that's up in our way. Look at Malcolm X and his deliberate. Welcome everyone, hope everyone is doing well. Let me just make sure my audio is working. Welcome everyone, hope everyone. Okay, audio is working. All right, so we're back again. Part 3 of Oil and Blood, the Color of Wealth in Tulsa, Oklahoma report. Going to go over quick housekeeping and then we're going to get into it. I just found out that one of good brother, man, that went to my parents' church, really good brother, passed away. He was probably maybe in his late 70s. So I just want to, give a shout out to him and may rest in peace. And that just goes to show anybody who's listening on the live and on the replay that whatever you want to do in your life, don't hesitate and definitely don't marinate, because we got to motivate. All right. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to motivate and make sure that we do our best to keep people informed, and the end of the day, to make sure that we're going to go ahead and get these reparations. All right. So quick housekeeping, and please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. All right. Let's see here. ETM Media Group Store. It's etmmediagroupstore.com, where you can get your merch. Help us support there. Should be in the details as well. If you're on Amazon, there is an affiliate link. If you shop at Amazon, hit that affiliate link before you go shopping. And when you get in that cart and check out, you'll be able to support what we're doing here. So greatly appreciate you. We're actually going to get started relatively soon. And yes, go check out the book, my book, Mr. Uncomfortable. You can pre-order right now on Kindle. It's coming out in August. Yes, MrUncomfortable.com. You can go there as well. All right. Reparations Now, Part 2, 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be a doozy. But if you haven't seen Part 1, it's right on Tubi. It's right here on Tubi. You can check that out. Or go to reparationsnowdoc.com to get behind the scenes footage as well. All right. Thanks everyone for joining, and let's continue where we started off yesterday. All right, let's go. Make sure that audio is not too loud here. Let me see the levels. Yeah, I think the level's good right there. All right, here we go. Whites in the Oklahoma Territory. White Americans increasingly sought to own land in the Oklahoma Territory as population pressures grew in neighboring states of Texas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Kansas. In particular, the pressure was increased to open up, quote, surplus, end quote, lands to white settlers. Under President Lincoln, the first Homestead Act was passed in 1862, which allowed U.S. citizens to claim a public 160-acre plot of land by filling out an application, agreeing to live in and approve the plot for at least 5 years, and filing for a deed in 7 years. Several more Homestead Acts were passed and allowed through 1986, including a specific one for Oklahoma Territory in 1889. These public plots were settled often at the cost of communal tribal lands. In subsequent years, white identity became entrenched in Oklahoma. The Ku Klux Klan found fertile ground for enforcing unity among whites. In particular, the thrust of this organizing was to unite individuals across social classes in Oklahoma. These coalitions across white Americans were necessary to keep in place existing Jim Crow laws used to disenfranchise African Americans, Hispanic, and other racial groups in Oklahoma. The Hispanic population in Tulsa was relatively small until recent decades. The Hispanic population in Tulsa was relatively small until recent decades. Historically, there may have been several explorer expeditions on land that later became Oklahoma from Mexico to establish religious missions and to search for gold, including the Coronado expedition. From the 1830s to the 1880s, vaqueros and cowboys from Mexico used cattle trails in Indian Territory given the increasing demand for beef in the region. Railroad development and coal mining brought more immigrants from Mexico and China. The latter were barred from migrating to the U.S. after 1882 at the Chinese Exclusion Act. The Mexican Revolution, deportations, and lynchings led to a decline of Mexicans in the early 20th century. Puerto Ricans began to move to the state due to military bases, and Venezuelans arrived in Tulsa in the 1970s, following the petroleum industry. Recent research has shown that legal status affects how Hispanic immigrants integrate into society, especially into newer areas such as Oklahoma and other Midwest and Southern states. In recent years, there has been increased immigration to agricultural states for employment. However, on average, Tulsa has a comparatively low immigrant population, comprising approximately 11% of the city's population. This immigrant population is growing quickly. Between 2000 and 2014, the region has experienced a 79% increase in its foreign-born residents, and Hispanics account for the fastest growing among groups. Tulsa also has a higher percentage of foreign-born residents compared with the rest of the state of Oklahoma. New immigrants to Tulsa in recent years became primarily from Latin America, followed by Asia. In the city of Tulsa, about 19% of residents speak a language other than English at home. Until 2007, Oklahoma was relatively inclusive of its immigrant population. For example, a state law in 2001 made the driver's license test available in several languages. Undocumented immigrants were also eligible for in-state tuition. Undocumented immigrants, were also eligible for in-state tuition, financial aid, and scholarships under a state law passed in 2003. So this law was passed in Oklahoma in 2003. However, anti-immigrant gained momentum in the mid-2000s as the state legislature started to repeal existing programs for undocumented immigrants in Oklahoma. Let's take a quick drink. All right. Ongoing denial of rights in Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a history of racial segregation extending into the 20th century. In fact, Oklahoma was the site of one of the first sit-ins at a segregated drugstore counter in 1958 in Oklahoma City. The state long resisted efforts to integrate schools, workplaces, and other places of business. In recent years, Oklahoma lawmakers have continued to oppose the influx of undocumented immigrants to the state. In 2007, the Oklahoma legislature passed a new law that made it more difficult for undocumented immigrants to obtain government IDs or public assistance. It also gives police authority to check the immigration status of anyone arrested. which can lead to deportations. Recently, Oklahoma lawmakers introduced stringent anti-sanctuary laws for cities in Oklahoma that refuse to comply with U.S. federal laws regarding undocumented immigrants. All right, family, just going to pause there real quick, and I'll be right back. All right, let's continue. There has been some noticeable improvement in the treatment of the Cherokee freedmen. This year, Cherokee Nation Supreme Court removed language requiring blood quantum requirements for citizenship. As a result, this has opened up membership to Cherokee freedmen descendants previously. Where were we at? Previously. All right. This year, Cherokee. As a result of this open membership, reaffirms. Okay. As a result, this has opened up membership to Cherokee freedmen descendants previously denied. Finally, a recent Supreme Court case in 2020 reaffirmed the existence of reservation lands for the Muskogee Nation, which includes parts of Tulsa, Oklahoma. This court case may serve as a precedent for other treaty-based reservation lands that were abolished at the time that Oklahoma became a state. It remains to be seen how this increased tribal jurisdiction, authority, and tax base may affect the income and wealth of tribal citizens and non-citizens in the future. Higher education institutions in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The first schools in Tulsa were tribal schools for the Muskogee, with subsequent mission schools for other Native American and non-Native American children. Segregated schools for African American students were created in 1908. The University of Tulsa was founded in 1894 and was historically affiliated with the Presbyterian School for Indian Girls, a boarding school in Muskogee Indian Territory. The Presbyterian Church then chartered it as the Henry Kendall College in 1894. It was the first college in the area, which then was chartered as the University of Tulsa in 1920. It is currently a non-denominational research university with nearly 4,000 students. According to integrated post-secondary education data, about 50% of students are white, followed by 8% Hispanic, 6% Black, 5% Asian, and 3% Native American. Oral Roberts University was established in 1962 as an evangelical liberal arts university. It became accredited by the North Central Association of Colleges and Secondary Schools. In fall 2020, 4,303 students were enrolled. Student demographics include 46% white, 16% African American, 13% Hispanic, 3% Native American, and 2% Asian American. All right, part 3, current demographics and economic characteristics in Tulsa. The discovery of an oil field across the Arkansas River rivers at the turn of the 20th century spurred tremendous population growth in the city of Tulsa. Today, Tulsa is the second largest city in the state of Oklahoma, with slightly over 400,000 residents, accounting for about 10% of the state's population. According to the U.S. Census Archives, there were 1,390 residents in Tulsa in 1900. By 1910, the number increased to 18,182, a 1,200% growth in population. The following decade, it grew almost 300%, reaching 72,075 in 1920. The main factor contributing to this rapid expansion in population was the oil boom experienced during the early 1900s. By the 1920s, Tulsa had become the base for over 400 petroleum-related companies. Population growth in Tulsa 1900 to 1940. All right, here is a chart here. All right, so I guess for our family that is seeing impaired, but for those that can see on the screen here, if you start from the column to the left, I guess, yes, column going up, you have the population all the way up from 20,000 going all the way up to 160,000. And then at the bottom on the row, you have years 1900 at 1,390. You have 1910, it grew to 18,182. Then in 1920, grew to 72,075. 10 years later, at 1930, it grew to 141,000 to 58. And in 1940, it looked like it kind of tapered off there at 142,147. So it didn't seem like there was a huge jump within that 10-year gap from 1930 to 1940. All right. Today, more than a century later, according to the U.S. Census 2019 population estimates, the city has a majority non-Hispanic white population, 54%, followed by Hispanic Latinos at 70%, African Americans 50%, Native Americans 5%, Asians 3%, and a combination of other groups including Native Hawaiians, other Pacific Islanders, and multiracial individuals at 8%. The fact that Native Americans represent only 5% of the city population shows that most of the population came as settlers from other parts of the U.S. and the world and were not local to the region. Between 2009 and 2017, the Tulsa metropolitan area had the second highest percentage of individuals who self-identified with at least one federally recognized tribe. Only the Phoenix Mesa Scottsdale has a higher percentage in the country. The city also has a storied history of racial disparities and demographic changes that continue to shape racial differences and inequitable access to assets, earnings, and employment opportunities. All right, so here's a chart here. Figure 2, racial composition of Tulsa in 2019. As you can see on this pie chart, most of it is white at 54%. Next is Hispanic or Latino in green at 16.5%. Let's just go around. 2 or more races at 7.5%. It's in kind of that, I don't know, what does that look like? Sky blue. Other at 0.1%, a little sliver there. Asian at 3.4% in gray. Native American in orange at 4.5%, and Black or African American 14.2%. And it looks like a maybe a blue, cobalt blue. I don't know. America blue, I think. Numbers do not sum to 100% due to rounding. All right, that was the U.S. Census Bureau 2019 quick facts. Tulsa is a relatively low-income city with nearly 19% of it of the city's residents below poverty line. Although typically only 5% are unemployed. The city is characterized by an uneven distribution of human capital, incomes, and wealth by race and ethnicity. Less than a third of the city's adults have a bachelor's degree or more, 32%, and about a fifth of residents are uninsured at 19%. After a century, Tulsa still remains a center for the oil industry. However, Tulsa's economy has diversified since then to include the following industries. Aerospace, both manufacturing and aviation, healthcare, energy, machinery, and transportation, distribution, and logistics. Aerospace parts manufacturing is 3.4 times more concentrated in the Tulsa MSA than in the U.S. at large. Wow. So if anybody's in the aerospace industry, I guess that's where it is to be. In oil and gas production and machinery manufacturing is 9.5 times more concentrated and produces more than 11% of Tulsa's gross regional product. The top paying industry in the Tulsa region is public utilities, with an average annual salary of $312. It does not come as a surprise that mining, quarrying, and oil and gas extraction jobs are the second highest earnings industry in the region, followed by healthcare and manufacturing industries. The largest occupational sectors in the city include educational and healthcare services at 23%, arts, entertainment, and recreation 12%, professional, scientific, and management 11%, retail 11%, and manufacturing 10%. About 1/10 of workers are employed in government jobs, and 83% work as private wage and salary workers. In 2020, the Tulsa Regional Chamber reported the following employers as the largest in the metropolitan statistical area: St. Francis Healthcare System, Walmart, and Sam's Clubs, Tulsa Public Schools, American Airlines, and Hillcrest Healthcare System. Given the mix of industries and occupations in Tulsa, current unemployment in the city is slightly below the state and the nationwide averages, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The estimated region-wide unemployment rate in the Tulsa MSA for August 2021 is 2.9%. The Tulsa region unemployment rate of 2.9% is slightly below the statewide unemployment rate, which is at 3.3%, and significantly below when compared to the national average of 5.2%. These unemployment rates capture the rebound of the economy as the rate of the pandemic-related infections and hospitalizations steadily subside and business activity increases. Nevertheless, the recovery has been characterized by a sluggish labor market with historically high resignation rates. Figure 3, comparing recent unemployment rates. All right, so you have this chart. All right, so it's like pretty much a straight line. There's the U.S. Oklahoma lines here. U.S. is in the blue, Oklahoma is in the orange, and Tulsa is in the gray. All right. Similarly, per capita income in the Tulsa MSA has been historically stronger than the state's and nation's rates. During the pandemic years, per capita income in Tulsa experienced a slowdown. However, with the economic recovery, it is expected to grow at an average annual rate of 4.8% for the next 5 years. The average weekly wages for all industries in the Tulsa MSA are depicted in Figure 4. Tulsa City reported, Tulsa City reported having the highest weekly wages in the area. In other words, workers in the Tulsa metropolitan statistical area had an average mean hourly wage of $23.94 in May 2020, about 12% below the nationwide average at $27.07. The Tulsa, Oklahoma metropolitan statistical area includes Creek, Okmulgee, Osage, Pawnee, Rogers, Tulsa, and Wagner counties. All right, so Figure 4 here, it says average weekly wages. All right, this is as of 2021 Q1, quarter 1, average weekly wages for all industries by county. All right, here's a chart. You can see Tulsa area first quarter 2021, US 1,289, area 1,012. All right, so here's the different counties here. The median household income in 2019 was about $49,158, and median earnings was $31,559. That was of 2019 of 1-year estimates. This amount is about 13,000 lower than the national median household income in 2019 and about 10,000 lower than the national median earnings estimates for 2019. Overall income and earnings are below the national average on several accounts. Table 1 displays these economic characteristics by race/ethnicity for Tulsa County. Non-Hispanic whites on average have the highest median household income and annual earnings, $62,439 and $38,702 respectively, followed by Native Americans at $52,638 and $30,484 respectively, while Hispanics and African Americans have the lowest median household income levels at $43,859 and $32,967 respectively, with the median Hispanic household making $10,892 more than the median African American household in Tulsa. In terms of median earnings, both African Americans and Hispanics have approximately similar median annual earnings at $25,369 and $25,337 respectively. At the median, whites make almost double the median household income and about a third more in earnings than African Americans in Tulsa County. Repeat that one again. At the median, whites make almost double the median household income and about a third more in earnings than African Americans in Tulsa. So, quick interjection. So, after reading this and so forth, please just let people know who are in Tulsa, if you're listening to this, to please read this report or subscribe to ETM Media Group and read with us if people haven't read this. Because I think this is a great justification for closing that wealth gap equals reparations all across the nation and also as well in Tulsa, Oklahoma. All right. Table 1, median household income and earnings by race/ethnicity, Tulsa County, 2019. As you can see in this chart, median household at $32,967. That's African American Black. Median annual earnings $25,369. Hispanic $42,859. $25,337. Native American $52,638. $30,484. Non-Hispanic white $62,439 and $38,702. 702. All right. Tulsa is also highly segregated by race and ethnicity. Almost half of the city's African American population resides in North Tulsa, which also happens to have some of the highest poverty rates, ranging from 38 to 41% across different zip codes. In the Human Rights Watch analysis of 2017, North Tulsa also has a much higher unemployment rate at 12%. Wow. Compared to the rest of the city's 6% unemployment rate. Additionally, African Americans in Tulsa are 2.3 times more likely to be arrested than whites. North Tulsa has a disproportionately high amount of traffic stops via predominantly white South Tulsa. An estimated 237 traffic stops per 1,000 residents take place in North Tulsa, in contrast with 2% or 2 per 1,000 residents in South Tulsa. Warrant-only arrests also disproportionately affect African American residents. Black Tulsans experience 2.6 times more warrant-only arrests than white residents of Tulsa. Arrests and citations contribute to fines, fees, and/or court expenses that exacerbate poverty and contribute to unemployment. For example, HRW's analysis of Tulsa Police Department records found that warrant compromised about 40% of arrests, many of which were for minor city violations or traffic tickets. Court costs were also the third leading reason for booking charges at the Tulsa County Jail. All right, so we are about at the half-hour mark, and I think we're going to stop there. So I'm trying to get these hard outs at half an hour. I know sometimes during these marathon reads, you know, we can go for about an hour, 2-3 hours, but got to take these in chunks as we go. So I don't know. I just appreciate everybody's time in this as we get educated and get informed about what's happening in Tulsa, especially with the wealth stuff going on there, and you know what has transpired, you know, the disparities since the 1921 race massacre. All right, so we're going to stop there, and we're going to continue with methodology, the National Asset Scorecard for Communities of Color, telephone surveys. Let's see what that has, or what that's about on tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. Yes, tomorrow's the 26th. Yep, 2025. All right, family. As always, appreciate you. Thanks for coming through. Shout out, bro. All right, yeah, please do, bro. Yeah, please email me. All right, this weekend, bro, I'm going to hold you to it. Email a brother. All right. Always appreciate you, man. Hope you holding Oklahoma down, man. You know what I'm saying? All right, appreciate you. Appreciate everyone and on the replay. That's how we do. Much love and respect, everybody. You guys take care of yourself and, you know, keep safe out there, family. A lot's going on right now. So, you know, whatever you do, just make sure you keep focused, eyes on the prize every single day, man. Because we never know when our day is going to be called. But that's why every day we got to do our calling, right? And this is our calling here on EMIN, the Mass Media Group, to make sure that everybody keeps informed and that we fight for our justice claim, the debt that's owed in this country. All right, family, you guys have a good one, and we will see you next time. Peace and reparations.
The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but free people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations, allows for the construction of these policies and practices and systems and structures that continue to oppress us. This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total black population in California is about 2.6 million, and then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. our historically black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR roof, don't tune in.